Welcome to episode 88 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. This is one of your co-hosts, Stephen Rothberg. I am the founder of College Recruiter Job Search Site. And I smiled with the 88 because my co-host, Jeanette Leeds, told me it's not 83. Apparently, she learned how to count in grade school, and I'm not quite sure what I was doing. But Jeanette, great to see you today.
Great to see you too, Stephen. Hi, everyone. I'm Jeanette Leeds, and we are here for episode 88. And we are here today with Dave Rosenberg, who, for those that don't know, he is a speaker, a coach, an author, and a radical accountability expert. And we're going to talk today. We're taking a little bit of a different bent with our podcast to talk about how you guys can transform your teams into self-directed high performers that crush the goals. So, Dave, thank you for being here today with us. Why don't we kick it off? Tell our listeners a little bit more about what you do, what you're all about, and then we'll
Sure.
get
No,
into the meat of it.
yeah, thanks for asking, Jeanette. It's great to be here. I work with results-driven business leaders and organizations that want to create radically accountable teams. And by that, I mean they want to have a team that consistently does what they need to do when they need to do it with accuracy. So we get it done right the first time. And I'll do that through speaking. I do that through training programs, workshops, as well as I have a travel retreat. I actually call it a leadership excursion. It's called Command Expedition: Leadership Lessons from Iconic Battlefields, where we travel all over the world to various sites. My first one will be Battle of Britain, and we dig into the leadership lessons then. Because you think about if you can get people to march into gunfire, right? And do the right things when lives depend on it, how much easier is it to do it when only livelihoods do? So we're going to dig into those lessons. So it's a really exciting event.
Wow, if you could only see my YouTube feed, and you would know that I need to be on your mailing list. It's like hockey, barbecue, and battlefields from decades or hundreds of years ago. So cool. So maybe the accountability, doing things right the first time. Is this something that you grew up with, that was instinctive? Does this come from your service in the Navy? Where do you think you got that from?
Wow. First of all, congratulations. I haven't gotten that question before. Um,
Good
but
work.
Yes.
I think it's probably a combination. I mean, I was a bit of a goody two shoes as a young child. I grew out of it, fortunately. But I was a bit of a goody two shoes. I always wanted to do things right. I honestly think we all have that instinctively
Hmm.
in us. I think people want to do a good job. But it definitely got cemented for me for my time in the military because one, you get highly trained in how to do things, and two, if you fail to do them, as I mentioned a minute ago, lives are at stake,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And so that really just sort of drove the point home.
Yeah. I mean, just thinking about that focus, like it is, hey, recruiting, it's like no one, knock on wood. Well, I guess you could say maybe if you're recruiting doctors and nurses, but it doesn't have that same intense pressure for sure.
Well, and this is where it's not as obvious, but if
Mhm.
you think about the cost of a bad hire, and depending on the size of the organization, it can have a really dynamic effect. And when all of a sudden now you're like, oh my God, they're not doing their job. You go through all the performance improvement, all the rest of that stuff, and at some point you make that decision, I need to do it all over again. You've just lost all that time, energy, and effort. So it really does have a huge, huge effort. And then the other piece of this is the people who are underperforming, do you think they're happy?
Right.
And then how does that affect them at home?
Mhm.
And then their children or their family or their loved ones. So when you can hire correctly and then inspire them, not motivate, inspire them to
Hmm.
do their job right so they are fulfilled, that has a ripple effect that's just enormous, just gigantic, because everybody they touch, that energy infuses into them.
Oh, totally. I mean, we think about it from a high volume standpoint. It's not one hire talking about, right? It's the multiples. And so you talk about like, hey, how much of an impact? It's incredible. Such a good point. I know we were talking before in the green room how you have like these 4 pillars as sort of your philosophy that helps to transform people's what would we say, challenges into strengths. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that with our listeners.
Sure. So, don't mean to correct, but obviously you're the better one at math, but it's 3. Um, yeah, right.
Well,
So,
that is my lucky number, so let's go with 3.
yeah.
I sense a Monty Python skit coming. Something about the holy hand grenade of Antioch or something like that.
Hulk,
But
before you cross this bridge to me, you must answer questions 3.
oh, that's another good one. Okay.
So, the 3 questions that we need to answer are, right, have we set our people up for success by providing them the mechanics, meaning the policies, processes, procedures that are formalized, that are in place, including the training, so that people know what is expected of them, how much of it they need to do, and that they can achieve it. That's where the
Yes.
training comes in. Really, really important. Formal training with testing, the whole 9 yards. That has some huge ripple effect, not the least of which is creates esprit de corps, that pride in I got through the training. The more difficult the training, the more the pride associated.
Mm.
Then it's mindset. Why do you exist as an organization? Right. So I believe that we have a leadership strategy which is separate from our business strategy. And the leadership strategy is to create self-actualized individuals. And I mean directly from Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization. So making sure people are lit up by your purpose as an organization, that they're excited about that. So they look forward to going to work because they get to do what they love to do. And then also inculcate that mindset of how their actions affect all the other stakeholders, your clients, your fellow team members, your vendors, everybody gets affected by whether you do your job or not. And when people understand how their actions affect others, they will go the extra mile to make sure it's done right. And then the last piece is model, making sure leadership walks the talk. It's not do as I say, not as I do. That leaders need to understand that any behavior they see in their team is a direct reflection of their own behavior someplace else.
That's just so superb. At one of the things that we started to do at College Recruiter, I think it's probably 8, 9, 10 years ago now, is to use something called EOS, Entrepreneurs Operating System. And it's
Very
really good for
familiar with it.
really good for small organizations. The bulk of those listening to this, way too big for that to scale. It's you kind of cap out at maybe 200 employees, and it's much more popular if you have like 1, 2, 3, 4 dozen. The large employers that we're talking to here, let's talk about the accountability piece, because part of what I heard you say was very similar to what EOS preaches, which is accountability is a good thing. And most people actually want that. If I report to Jeanette and I have no idea what Jeanette's expectations are for me, I might think that I am doing a fantastic job. And in fact, she's trying to figure out how to fire me.
Yeah.
But if she's clear with me, these are your expectations. And like you say, I have like the tools to do that. I have the training to do that. And I've hit that. She knows I'm doing a great job. I knew I'm doing a great job. That's inspiring. It's motivating. When you're talking to an employer like with a big call center, warehouse, they've got dozens, hundreds of people. How do you translate that? How do you get a leader to put that into action when you've got a ton of people doing really similar work?
Sure. So first of all, let me put to bed a little misnomer there. And this is one I suffered from much of my career, that a large organization is different than a small organization. The reality is they're not. A large organization is just a bunch of small organizations, right?
I
So
like that.
think about this. This comes from my military background. How large was the U.S. Navy? How large is the U.S. military, right? But it's groups within groups within groups within groups. We're only managing, realistically, we actually only manage 8 to 10 people at a time, right? That's sort of the way the structure is.
Yeah.
And I should say lead, because I distinguish between management and leadership. We
Sure.
manage processes, we lead people.
Yeah.
So we're only leading 8 to 10 people at a time, and then we're stacked, in a hierarchical manner. So EOS, which is a great system, could be applied all the way across the board. That's number one, or any leadership system, because this comes from leadership hasn't changed in the 300,000 years of human evolution. It's how it's been applied that's been changed. So, but the mindset that I like to inculcate in leaders is the understanding that one, first of all, accountability is not holding people accountable. That is a tool.
Yeah.
The accountability conversation, what I like to call a counseling conversation, right? So that's one, it's about mindset. It's not about punishment. It's not about, it's about sincerely from a place of love, caring about that person and making sure that they succeed, setting them up for success. Two, the mindset. We only hold people accountable we believe are capable.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Well, what's the flip side of that? If I fail to hold you accountable, Janet, let's pretend you're my direct report, then I'm telling you you're not capable.
Right.
Three, model. If it's my job as the leader to hold you accountable, to make sure you do your job, to make sure it's done right so the whole system works well, and I don't do that, I'm modeling not doing my job. The irony is I'm now allowing you not to do your job, right? That's what I mean when I say that behavior is reflected. So in order for me to hold you accountable, I need to recognize this is my job. And if I want you to do your job, I need to do my job.
Walk the walk.
Yeah.
Walk the talk. That's exactly it.
It's super powerful, not just in work, but I'm thinking as a parent as well. So it's like that's where my mind's going as well. It's
and for those who are like listening to the audio, Jeanette looked at me and she talked about being a parent. Because
hey, I'm the one with teenagers. Your kids are older.
So. No. I think the maturity and the behavior are remarkably similar. Jeanette, I think we have time for one more question. Do you want to grab it?
Real fast before you have to ask. Every time I've said that to a parent, I get that reaction.
Yeah, I don't doubt it, because that's where my mind was going. It's very similar. I want to go back to something you said at the beginning around using some of the battles of Britain. I think you said as an example of pushing to this next level. Maybe you could share a tidbit or two that I know on the retreat is a few days, but maybe you could share some extra tidbits from there.
Sure. Let's look at Winston Churchill, for example. So when he took over as prime minister, the mindset of Great Britain was torn, right? There was Chamberlain who wanted to capitulate. There were people who said, let's make a pact with the Nazis. Let's whatever, right? It was, we can allow this evil to happen. And Churchill was of a single mind. He said, no, we must fight evil at all costs. And he was able to enlist and actually bring all of England, these different mindsets together for this one cause. Just imagine whatever company or organization you're a part of, if every single human being who worked for you had the same thought mind process line. We are going to dig into how Churchill was able to do that. What were the tools he used? And let me throw in a bonus one with you. Eisenhower, we're going to go to Southwick House, which is where Eisenhower planned and led the D-Day invasion. We think of that as how successful it was, but when he invaded North Africa for Operation Torch years before this, 1941, I think it was, it went horrible. Yeah. It was just a terrible. We ended up getting the North Africa back, but by the skin of our teeth, actually. Where many people look at that with a situation like that and go like, okay, well, these were things beyond my control, or blame other people. That's not what Eisenhower did. He went back and analyzed what happened and iterated and improved. So Sicily got better. And by the time we got to D-Day, we landed 5 divisions from 3 different countries. Think about the coordination, the largest amphibious landing in the history of mankind. So we're going to dig into how do we turn past failures into future successes.
Oh, I love that. Super powerful.
That is awesome. On another podcast, we're going to have to talk about the week that I spent in Belgium about a decade ago, going from battlefield to Trappist Monastery to battlefield to Trappist Monastery. Every day was the same like that. And boy, do you learn a lot to seeing like Bastogne one day battle the Bulge and Waterloo the next day. and
Same.
the people change, the uniforms change, the weapons change, the tactics remarkably similar.
Well, when you
In
consider
how the people were like led, motivated, so similar.
there's a reason Sun Tzu, who was a famous Chinese general, wrote The Art of War 1,000 years ago. And not only is it still taught in war colleges today, it's taught in business school.
Yep. I have it on my shelf right in front of me, actually.
Sweet.
It's yeah. I mean that idea of the iteration, right? You can always improve, and where can you get better and better and learn from your mistakes?
Yeah.
Super powerful.
If you have the processes in place to allow you and the culture in place to embrace it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Dave, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Do add me to your mailing list. And it would be great for me, maybe good for you, maybe not, for me to be on that trip in next year. So,
You know, I'm curating. It's going to be no more than 10 individuals. I'm hand selecting them. So certainly if anyone, you or any of your audience want to apply, go to my website, select Command Expedition. The dates on it are for this September, but I have to push it out. There's some logistic reasons behind that. But go ahead and hit the application. That's not going to commit you to anything other
Yeah.
than we can interview you and I'll get you queued up. So once I have the final dates, you can make a determination.
Sweet. So
Very
sweet.
cool.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Dave, thank you. Jeanette, thank you much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dave. Everyone have a great week. Until next time.
Thanks, Stephen. Thanks, Jeanette.
Cheers.
Take care.